Roll Tide.
From the John DeVita Broadcast Center.
Just wanted to make sure John was awake.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Wednesday, January the 10th, year 2018.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Already 2018. Boy, oh boy, time was going by fast.
Oh boy.
That's for sure.
And now here they are, the leftovers from last year, Jim and Rich.
Once again, we're the scraps.
Yeah, and instead of the expendables, we're the leftovers.
Hey, I think I figured out the definition of optimism.
What is that?
I've been going through all my old baseball cards and kind of culling the herd to try to decide what's saleable and what's garbage. And I came across a card. Turned out to be a 53 Bowman of Harry Cheedy.
Okay.
Harry Cheedy was a journeyman catcher, and probably his only claim to fame was the fact that he was once traded for himself.
Yes, yeah.
But I wasn't sure what year this card was.
The one
that I have.
Is 53.
I found out eventually it was a 53.
Okay.
But there was reference to the 51 season on there, so I thought it was a 52. So
yes, that makes sense.
I decided, well, let's make this simple. I'll just search on Harry Cheedy. The definition of optimism. There's about 1,100. There's about 1,100 Harry Cheedy cards on eBay right now that people are trying to sell throughout his career.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
by the way, it's on the market on the auction for starting bid is 49 cents. If anybody wants to try it.
Actually, if you could get 49 cents, I think you'd be doing well. Especially with 1,100 cards on the market.
Yeah, for various years throughout his career. But I thought that was the definition of optimism.
That is the definition of optimism. I thought you were going to say something about his actual career. And
which was non-existent.
Why did they mention the 51 season on the 53 card?
I think
was he in the service?
I wonder if I looked it up if he would have been in the service. That's what my thought was. He may have been in the service.
That's possible.
In 52. Well, we made it through another year. You were talking about something just before we went on. Why don't you bring that up regarding the Ridgewood football?
Yeah,
let's get our public service announcements out of the way.
I'm going to meet with Sam Palazzo, who whoever is listening to this broadcast may or may not know. Sam is a former Ridgewood football player. He's now working for the Harwood Heights Police Department as a detective. And we're going to meet Saturday morning at the Blossom and talk about getting a Ridgewood football alumni club together. And I'll make this as brief as possible. But a couple things have hit me that made me feel this was the right time. When Bobby Miller died, actually I sent a text message to Pat Scharf and said, geez, Pat, Bobby Miller died, and I know you guys weren't teammates, but in my opinion, you were the two greatest middle linebackers in the history of Ridgewood. That's my opinion. So I'd say about a month later, I'm in the library. I look up, and who's standing over me but Pat Scharf. And he said, Rich, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you said. He said, I'm technically illiterate. I tried to text you, and it didn't see. I don't think you got it because you didn't respond. I said, you're right, I didn't get it. And he said, we should go out. I'm going to get Johnny Medema and a couple other guys, and we should go out and have a drink in honor of Bobby Miller. When Laser Nights reopens as the village or the local tavern, we're going to do that. Then Rick DeFelice died, and Wayne Bush, who was in the class behind us, the class of 70.
By the way, Wayne just had a birthday within the last few days.
Okay. Wayne was a classmate and teammate of both mine and Rick's, and Wayne called me up and said he was getting a group of people together on a Friday afternoon at a bar restaurant. I think I want to say it was Schaumburg. And Rich, if you can, come. And then this week, posted on Facebook, Mark Bruno, got Butch DeFelice, which is Rick's son, who also was a Ridgewood football player, Tony Marty, Dave Mack, Tommy Pagliaro together just for a dinner to, sort of honor Rick. So I'm thinking to myself, this is the time. Okay, this is the time. The time is right.
That is, and I think it probably resonates to you with this, where the time is right, as we're coming up on our 50th,
right?
Our 50th reunion.
Yes,
in 2019. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you start to reflect back on some things.
Yeah, you do.
You really do. By the way, just added into our list of people who have liked our page, Lenora Adams has
excellent
added onto our page.
Excellent. I you know what?
I think we're up to like 22 now.
I just, you know what? I just looked here. I just checked the page out yesterday. I think we have 23 who followed and 22 who liked the page. And the reason I checked the page is I've been in contact, and man, I haven't seen this person in 40 years at least, but Linda DeBella and I are friends on Facebook. And she has a company called Almost, or it could be a band. I don't want to say what it is because I'm not really totally sure what it is. She's got her own company, but she also has a Facebook page in addition to her own called Almost Bowie, which is I'm assuming maybe a band or something that is a David Bowie knockoff band or something.
Bowie band?
Yeah.
Good question. Don't know.
So Lynn asked me to like her page, which I did. So I thought, maybe I should have Lynn like our page. So I went to our page, and she's got like 300 and some people that like her page and follow it or whatever. I'm like, we got like 23 people. I go, this is embarrassing.
And you know what? I actually popped for $10 or so for a while to get our page showing up on sites to get some things, and I sent invites to a bunch of people.
Oh wow!
And even my family didn't like our page.
Well,
Dana at least did.
Jim, I have to tell you, you mentioned Wayne Bush had a birthday yesterday. Was Bob? In addition to Elvis, it was Bob Lupo's birthday.
Yeah.
Dale Nelson, Al Peters,
and I believe David Bowie.
Oh, could have been. Was it David Bowie?
Maybe that's why she.
Bowie. Okay.
Speaking of Bowie, I believe it was David Bowie's birthday.
And today, because it seems like a lot of them fell around this time, was Diane Hilgenberg.
Mm-hmm.
So quite a few birthdays. Usually, when I look at I'll try to send somebody a birthday wish. You might get one, you might get 2, 3. Yesterday it was like four people. So. And all of them shared a birthday with the king, so which is nice. Not LeBron James, but the real king,
the true king.
So what are we going to talk about here, Jim? Because there's some really great stuff to talk about.
Well, let's start with Roll Damn Tide.
I'll tell you. You know what's interesting, James? We're sitting there, Mary, Tara, Tommy, Tara's boyfriend Donnie, and I are sitting there watching the game last night. And I walked in just before this first half ended. I already knew the answer to the question before I asked it, but I said, "Okay, how's this all going?" I said, "Who's for Georgia?" Tommy and Donnie were for Georgia. Okay, well, obviously then Mary and Tara were for Alabama, and I said, I'm swinging the vote your way because I'm for Alabama too. And these two, Tommy and Tara, start going at it because Tom is a big Patriots backer, but he's rooting against Alabama for the reason that they've won too many times. And Tara is jabbing him like, "Well, who's the Patriots fan here?" I mean, they haven't won too many times.
Speaking of one too many times.
Yeah. So, but Jimmy, it was a great game. The first half didn't look like it would have been that interesting, but the second half obviously was outstanding.
I kind of lost interest near the end of the first half.
I could see. I had that feeling just walking in
the
door.
I kind of was losing interest, and Dana came home from something, and we talked for a while, and I turned the TV off and was starting to do some other things, and always have Yahoo Sports open, and I'm following the game that way, and I see the way it was, and I thought, ooh, I think it's time to watch the end of this ball game.
Yeah.
And two things really, really impressed me. The Alabama quarterback, the starter, Jalen Hurts, he handled it so well.
Sure, he did.
He handled it so well, and I'm sure wherever he transfers to, they will appreciate him.
Yeah, I'm thinking, Jim, and we're digressing from your point here, but I'm thinking that Jalen Hurts may end up being play another position and just stay at Bama.
I think so. It's very possible. I would agree with you.
Although I would say this too: a great performance by his backup, whose name I'm not even going to be able to.
I'm not even going to
pronounce.
try. I'm not even going to try.
But obviously he's somebody who needs some polish too. So I could also see them maybe sharing the duties in some way.
Yeah. And what impressed me with him, first of all, the interview with him on the field after the game.
Oh gosh,
the poise.
Yeah.
The just complete poise, and how he was a very humble guy. The way this all played out.
Yes.
And just his composure by the fact that, boy, that sack when he lost, what?
Oh, my gosh.
16 yards?
Yeah, that was huge.
That was huge. And to step right up there and look that defender off.
Yes, yeah. Jim,
look that defender off and opened up that field and hit him.
How many times have you heard even a pro quarterback so clearly take an announcer or an interview through what actually happened, so that all of us who probably, if you watched it on your own from the rear, from behind the line of scrimmage, where you saw what he explained was best, how many of us would have actually seen that?
We wouldn't have caught it.
But when he explained it, then you looked at it and you said, yeah, I see what he did.
Yeah. And I mean, when he explained it then, and when they ran the play,
right,
with the great graphics,
yeah,
and you could see that how the field opened up.
Yeah, no, it was
and left
beautiful.
his receiver all alone.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was good.
Yeah, it
was
really good stuff.
Really good football.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? Outstanding game. You hate to see anybody lose a game like that. In this case, I was just to have somebody to root for. I rooted for the Bama. I have to say, the other thing is when you see young guys handle themselves like that, and I think over the years, I don't care if your name is Nick Saban or Urban Meyer or going back to Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler and guys like that, a successful coach, there's always going to be an element that is going to try to be critical of those people. And when I saw the way those young men were, and you know, a lot of it is the way they were brought up as well. It's not just their coach. But I thought, you know, Nick Saban is, at least the way I looked at it last night, is sort of the real deal.
Oh,
I think he's got the right attitude about things.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think he does too.
Yeah. So, did you notice, Jim? Here, I got a kick out of this. I don't know if when you would tune, maybe this had happened after you had tuned, before you had tuned back into the game. But on a kickoff by Alabama, number 48, who was a backup linebacker, and I can't think of his last name right now, gets into some fisticuffs.
Get into a fight, yeah.
And he comes off the field, and then I thought he was going after Saban. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, gosh, this guy. And then he started to walk, and I thought, they sent him to the locker room. He's done. But then he sat down, and a position coach or a trainer or somebody came up and talked him down. And the next time Bama kicked off, he made the tackle. And I'm thinking, you know, I think maybe I'm intuiting too much here, but there might have been a method to the coach's madness, because here's a guy, they needed to be hepped up at that point in time.
I saw the whole sequence with that on a Twitter feed.
And
so,
you know what? Maybe this is the type of guy who can get his teammates jacked up just because he's so emotional. And maybe the coaches deliberately poked him a little bit. You know, you don't want that foul, definitely. but maybe they poked him a little bit, to get the sideline going a little bit, possibly.
That's possible. That's
So-
possible. But it was great ball game. Great finish to the season.
Yes, yeah, man. You know what? Everything bad I said about the system proved not to be true this year, because I don't think you could have gotten a better game out of
I don't think
anybody
so.
else.
I don't think so either. And you have to be amazed at the fact that Nick Saban has never lost to one of his former assistants. He's 12-0 against former assistants.
Let me ask you this: Has Bill Belichick ever lost to any of his former assistants?
Good question.
Because there's a few of them that have been head coaches.
Yeah, good question. And it was interesting too. And I hadn't really had a chance to look this up. And we'll get into the new Bears coach, but somebody made the statement that guys that have come from the Andy Reid coaching tree generally have been more successful as a head coach than those that have come from the Belichick
Yeah,
tree.
you know what?
And I haven't looked up to see that, if that's the case.
You know what? I read an article the other day about that. Now, it wasn't a comparison between the coaches from in New England versus the coaches from
Philadelphia
Eagles
and
/ Chiefs.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. The Andy Reid coaching tree. Well, I think Doug Peterson for one with
Yeah.
the Eagles,
Yeah.
and there Sean. I always get these two guys, but I think the young guy out in
Right.
L.A., McVay, is it
McVay.
McAvoy or whatever?
McVay.
McVay is another one. Although he's got good NFL credentials anyway.
He's
Because
got-
his
and he-
father was a head coach and an exec.
Yeah, and he brought a good staff. I mean, you got Wade Phillips as you're running your defense there too.
Yeah. But I think, and the guys I can think of that have been off the Belichick tree are Romeo Crennel, Charlie Weiss,
Flop.
Although
Although Charlie Weiss made himself a lot of money
he
failing.
did make a lot of money.
Failing in college.
Yes. And then McDaniels, which had.
I think he was just too young.
Yeah, well, he said, I've heard him say or read that he said, I made a lot of mistakes. He said, I'm glad for the learning experience.
Yeah.
I hope not
Yeah.
to make those mistakes again if I get
Yeah.
another chance. I was going to say, in regards to McDaniels, I was talking to Jimmy Matthews one day about this, and, a lot of people, I think McDaniels might have been the most high-profile choice possibly. But my feeling the whole time was after McDaniels has seen Belichick have so great success while coaching and the team and controlling the roster, I think if McDaniels can get a position where he can do the same, I think a guy who's as probably as strong a candidate as him is going to want that type of a situation. And I know that's not going to be the situation with the Bears.
No.
I have to say this, Jim. I've been thinking about Matt Nagy, or I don't know if he says it Nagy or
Nagy.
but interesting thing, and I checked it before I came. Dow Loggins has left for Miami. Jeremiah Washburn, the offensive line coach, Miami. Curtis Matkins, backfield coach, Denver. Not one defensive assistant has left and got another job yet. My feeling is that the reason Nagy was grabbed so quickly, in addition to his strength, what they view as his strength on offense, is that first off, he's not been in the NFL that long. So I don't know.
I mean, amazing, really.
I don't know what type of staff. When you talk about an entire staff, I don't know how much of a staff he could put together. I'm not saying he can't, but I don't know what the overall quality of that staff is. And I'm thinking that it's very possible that you're not going to just see Fangio stay, but you may see the entire defensive coaching staff stay.
Honestly, I'm a little bit skeptical that Fangio's going to stay, because I know the Packers, the stories are out that the Packers are pushing on him really hard since Dom Capers left.
Yeah.
Since they fired Dom Capers.
Yeah.
I would not like to see Fangio up there. I would hope he stays, and just like you said, I hope he stays to finish off the work here.
Honestly, I'll stick my neck out and say the deal's already done.
It will
the
be
tell for me is that not one of his defensive coaches has left yet.
That's, of course, he could also say nobody leave because we're either going to be here or we're going to be in Green Bay.
That's true. He could say that's a good point.
You know,
although
we're either here or we're moving north.
The other thing, though, for a guy like Fangio, the way I would see it, I mean, and this is me putting myself in his shoes, and that it might not be the way he thinks. Unless I was going to be a head coach, why would I? I've started something here that I've publicly stated I'd like to see through to the finish. Why would I jump to Green Bay when I can stay here in the same position as what they're offering me in Green Bay with the same staff? Let's just say that's the case. Why would you make the move?
True.
So,
and you also look at the fact that, you know, if they sign him here, and I guess about as we're doing this on Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning, in about an hour and a half when the press conference starts.
Yeah.
We'll see what the announcements will be.
We'll get some answers. Maybe
we'll get some answers. I gotta think that Fangio may look for the fact that, you know, what's it gonna cost the Bears to keep him here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he makes, but would $3 million be a number?
I don't know what those guys make. So
I have no idea what they make, and he also may look at the fact and go, "I'm 57 years old."
That's going to be part of it too, I think.
You know, why don't I stay here? If they give me a good deal, I can stay here and walk away in 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll be fine.
You know, interesting when you bring up the salary, Jim. They could probably afford to pay Fangio a little bit more because I'm sure this a guy that they bring in with no head coaching experience, they can pay a little less head coaching wise. So yeah, Fangio the money may be there to give him a little bit.
The
better
money
raise.
may be there. So I think come 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, we'll find out.
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. You know, I looked at. Are we up to a break yet?
No.
I looked at.
I'm confused because the time on the clock, John always sets it to noon, and then I'm looking up at the clock on the wall, and it's like 11:25 on there, and I'm confused.
Okay,
easily.
Nagy is a let's see, played for a small school powerhouse, the Delaware Blue Hens.
The Blue Hens.
And
played arena ball. Did well in arena ball. Dad was a high school coach, I believe.
Yeah, his dad was a high school coach, and he actually, I think when, I don't know who put it out there. I know that you texted me that he had been in real estate.
Yeah,
but that's a little, how could you say it? You know, it makes for a good story. But what I read is he jumped into that when he was sort of in between jobs, but he has been in football in some form for quite a few years.
Okay.
So
the fact that he came back to football 8 years ago, and really, I mean, took an intern job with the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then became the quality control coach.
I love those guys.
Those are the guys that sit in a room and watch video all day.
Yeah.
You know. And come out bleary-eyed.
Yeah.
And then, you know, quarterback coach and assistant offensive coordinator and then offensive coordinator. And then, I mean, it has to say something about his ability if Andy Reid would give up play calling.
Yeah,
only about 5 games.
Yeah, 5 games worth of play calling. And then I haven't really heard the story on why that reversed.
At the end?
Yeah.
The story that I picked up along the way was Nagy told Reid that he says, I'm interviewing for the Bears job. Might be a good chance I get it. And Reed basically told him, okay, why don't you script out the first 15 plays?
Okay.
He said, and then I'll take it from there.
Okay.
You can concentrate on getting ready for your interview.
I think the other reason, because you expressed a surprise that the Bears move so quickly.
That's so un-Bears-like.
But I think one of the reasons is when I went onto the internet today and looked at Nagy, the Colts seem to have a huge interest in him, and which would seem to make sense because if Andrew Luck comes back from injury,
I heard that too. The Colts were very interested in him.
Pair him up with a really quarterback-friendly coach, so to speak.
Yeah.
Then so I think that there was that was one of the reasons the Bears acted as quickly as they did.
Yeah. So un-Bears-like. Really.
It is. You know what I found interesting, Jim, and maybe this is just me, but Ryan Pace is an Eastern Illinois guy. Bob Spoo, very influential, longtime coach down there. Most of those guys, I would assume, are good football guys. And him naming another small school guy and a very well-known small school football-wise Delaware guy as his new coach, I find that interesting, and I think there is more than a little connection in that.
It could be the case. It's going to be interesting if Pace talks about their philosophy on how they made this choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was listening to I had the score on last week after everything was going down and firing and all this stuff. And Brian Billick was doing his weekly call. Always interesting. Always interesting. And they asked him, well, you've been through this before. What's an NFL coaching search like?
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I almost called you the other day because the first two parts of this I got, but the third part sort of faded away. So go ahead.
Okay. I mean, he said you can do the usual. He said you can round up the usual suspects and bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
He said if you decide you want to be offensive-minded, well, you bring in all the offensive-minded coaches, and then the usual question you ask them is, well, who are you going to hire to run the defense? Or if you want to be defensive-minded coach, you bring all the defensive-minded guys in, and the question you always ask is, who's going to run the offense? Or you can actually sit down and develop the vision. And when he said this, it made me immediately think Theo Epstein, vision.
Yeah.
Develop the vision of what you want your team to be.
Yeah.
X years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then start to look for the guy that can help you meet your vision. Not just the coordinator du jour or the retread. And it made me think today, how many guys in the NFL coaching right now have had more than one opportunity? Belichick's on his second one.
Right.
Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
This is his second time around.
Sure.
When Gruden starts, this is his, third time around as a head coach. But I'm trying to think, NFL head coaches. Reed is on his second one.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of other coaches right now. Well, okay, Jim Caldwell, the guy up in Detroit, got fired, and that was his second.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of who else is on his second NFL coaching job. I know Bill O'Brien in Houston. This is his second time as a head coach, but one time was college.
Right.
But I can't think of. I'm trying to think of.
Well, what do you? What do you? Are you getting any?
What I'm looking at is it seems to be that teams don't want to go for the tried, the old war horse.
Yeah.
They want something new, something different, something fresh. But, as we all know, everything in the NFL is a copycat from everybody else.
That's true, too. What you said there about Billick's comments, the thing that really you said something, or Billick said something that makes me feel more sure about Ryan Pace. I didn't like the Fox firing per se, but when you say it like that, okay, and if Pace is going to talk about vision and having a head coach with vision, I would say this: John Fox. I don't think I have any problem with Foxy as a coach. I think he's a good coach and a good man. But
his players all spoke highly of
at
him.
his point in time. What is his real vision? I think for John Fox, it's just you come, you coach every day, and you do the best you can.
And life goes on.
Yes, for a guy like Nagy, I hope there's a vision for the organization. Obviously, it's going to be a shared one with Ryan Pace, which is going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're at break time.
Yeah,
Jim,
let's take a break, John.
You're listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norge and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, January the 10th, the year 2018. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norge. And now back to Jim Leon and Rich Massaro.
Thank you there, Doctor. I had a thought that was in my head and just escaped me.
Was it about the
as we were talking about vision?
Vision, yeah.
As I think as we were talking about vision, and you made a statement when we were talking on the phone one day or having coffee. I don't remember. Everything blurs together after a while.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't really do a complete and total teardown and rebuild in football.
Yeah, it's tough.
You know, although Cleveland's trying damn hard to do it.
Yeah, they are. Well, you know, I keep thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not going to. I'm not saying Ryan Pace is bad. I think I understand a lot of what he's done, and even things that maybe didn't work out. I can understand those too. But going back to the teardown idea, when Pace came, the one I would say constant that they probably thought they had was Kyle Long, and look what was happening there. Okay, they said, here's at least a piece. This is a guy we can count on.
Yeah.
And, he's an all-pro. Well, 3 years that Pace has been GM and Fox was coached, if they had Long half the time, that'd probably be about right.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many moving parts. Thank you, John. There's so many moving parts in on an NFL team.
By the way, if anybody ever wants to do a radio show, John always has coffee on.
Yes, that's for sure.
And he'll bring you a cup too.
How do you address many areas all at once? It's hard to do.
It really is. It really is hard to do. And there was a point that was made several times during the afternoon show yesterday when I was doing some stuff around the house and had the score on. That, well, first of all, I think I wanted to go back to one thing about Pace. When after the firing of Fox and the announcement from Sweaty Teddy and George that Ryan, what purpose did he serve?
Who,
Phillips?
I you know what? I honestly, he's and I try not to get like goofy about this stuff. But this guy is starting to really. I'm sitting there like, I read a thing in the paper where he said, "Well, I've been around this game now for so many. You haven't been around.
You
the
haven't
game.
been around it. You were the accountant before.
Yeah.
You did the tax return."
Yeah.
For God's sake, stop acting like you're a football expert.
Yeah,
but the fact that when he announced that Ryan Pace was given an extension to 2021, and the press immediately went, "Oh my God, how could they extend him? What has he done? He's had bad free agent signings. His teams have only won 14 games in the last 3 years. Well, duh. 4 years out, how much you want to bet that Matt Nagy has a 4-year contract?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
the two of them are tied together.
Yeah.
If he fails, you fail.
Definitely. I agree
I mean,
with
that was the absolute. That was so plain.
Yeah.
But oh no, the press immediately had to go. Oh no, he's got this, he's got that. He hasn't done anything. But the one point that I kept hearing yesterday, a number of times, was you've got 3 guys who haven't proven themselves. You got a quarterback who hasn't proven himself.
Right.
You got a head coach that hasn't proven himself. And you really have got a general manager
Yeah. I
that
agree.
hasn't proven himself.
I agree.
These 3 guys, their futures are tied together. And if one fails, they're all toast.
Yeah, that's true.
They're all toast.
True.
And I give Ryan Pace credit for rolling the dice.
Well, I mean, what else? What
are you gonna do?
what other choice do you have?
What are you going to do?
I saw the other day where one of the fatheads in the Sun Times, because they have the 3 blind mice that cover the Bears, and he was saying
Tweedledee-dum, Tweedledee-dumber. And
he was talking about and the names he used, free agent busts. He used Marcus Wheaton, Marcus Cooper, Deion Sims was another name he named, and
Glennon.
Glennon.
Glennon was an
4.
awful signing.
Well, it made no sense, but based on the draft.
Right.
But at any rate, I'm thinking to myself, though, you're trying to sort of put your fingers in many holes in the dike. And, I didn't hear anybody say Prince Amukamara turned out to be pretty solid.
Decent.
Let's see, who else? A couple, Kendall Wright and, the guy they traded for, Inman, are not superstars, but they were fine.
They were adequate.
So the point I would make is...
We would be if they were baseball players, we'd be talking about their WAR.
Yeah. But this,
they're the replacement level.
When they start to knock the guys that are signed, my question always is, okay, who was out there that was actually better that we could have signed? I mean, you have a salary cap to deal with. Like when he signed Marcus Wheaton, I thought Marcus Wheaton was a good choice because when he's healthy, he's been a good deep threat at times when he's been able to play in his career. But I think what they actually saw, and again, I'm trying to use my crystal ball here, but when all of a sudden he did become active and they were barely using him at all, I think whatever, you read what the guy says in the paper and he sounds like a good soldier. But you know what? I think they maybe, whatever his act is, they weren't buying it or something because they did not use him even when he was healthy.
Even when he was healthy. So I don't know what the
yeah.
In the issue too was everybody was always so vague with their comments.
Mm-hmm.
You never got a straight answer out of Fox for anything.
No. Well, I could sort of see why.
Yeah, well, yeah, Well, of course, you never get a straight answer out of Belichick for anything other than
no.
Are you going to coach the Patriots next year? Yes.
Jim, I was talking with Jim Matthews over coffee the other day, though, and we were talking about this very subject. Jim said, he says the last news conference with Fox, he took like 3 questions and said, "That's all," and walked off. And I said, "Yeah, I said I think
2 of them were about his job security."
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to answer that.
I think these guys, the overexposure of the coaches and managers is extreme. What do you expect a guy to say? No, I think I really stunk it up and they should fire me. I mean, what do you want him to say? So you get tired of the same old nonsense. I got to ask you. I got to run this one by you. This has been on my mind for a week or so. Based on what happened this year with the Bears, Now, Fox is fired because the record is bad, right? We didn't win. Okay, so it's a performance-based.
It's a performance-based
business,
business, sure.
Now, the same two things here. The same guys in the press who've been dogging him out all year about this, that, and the other thing. 2 days after he's fired, one of the guys writes a story about how the Bears roster is really not up to snuff. And I'm like, well, okay, so the coach did a bad job, but he didn't have a good roster. So which one is it? Okay. My feeling is I think Fox probably used everything he knew as a head coach just to keep the Bears treading water. Here's the first point that I was going to make, though. They bring in Mike Glennon. He plays for 4 games. Doesn't do well.
Was
now
awful.
he's on the bench. Now you bring in a rookie. Okay, not saying the rookie's bad. He's got his moments, but he's not ready to win in the NFL. You play him 12 games, and you have a guy on the bench who's a veteran. He's not a career backup. He's not a rookie. He's been a starter in the NFL. If you're really serious, say, about the W's and L's, I'm not saying that Sanchez would make him a playoff team, but I'm saying
I was wondering if you were going to bring up Sanchez.
I'm going to say, is it possible that if you're looking for improvement, and if, say, improvement is winning 7 or 8 games, is it possible that if you would have played Sanchez that you would have won those 7 and 8 games? But my point would be this. You're saying the coach is fired for performance. No, I'm not buying that because you never put anybody in a position to win in the first place.
You never gave him the tools.
Right.
Now, and the signing, the signing of Glennon and then the signing of Sanchez. Okay, Glennon's going to start. Sanchez is going to be the backup. Trubisky's going to sit on the bench.
Yeah. That was the original thing.
That was that was the logical step, and Sanchez was inactive the whole season.
He never got in the uniform, I don't think.
No, he was inactive the whole season.
Yeah.
He was a great, everybody said, and I heard an interview with him, and they said, you heard him talk and everything else about philosophies and all this, and a great mentor.
Sure.
Mark Sanchez is probably going to be a pretty doggone good football coach.
Yeah.
After his career.
Well,
which is probably over anyhow, right?
Don't give me, though, as a Bears fan, a song and a dance about, we're trying to improve, and we're trying to, we want to see some improvement. We won 5 games last year. Improvement would be 7 or 8 games this year. And then you the most critical position on the field, you put guys in there who are not going to be able. We're not going to be able to do that with those guys, regardless. Yeah. So I don't want to hear about the performance-based thing because you weren't trying. I don't care what you say. You weren't trying to win to begin with. And the coach being a good soldier, I think he understands this. He went along with it. Now you're going to fire the guy? I mean, that to me, that doesn't really sit well.
Yeah, and you start to look at it and say, why didn't they put the players out there? Mm-hmm. There was some question regarding when Victor Cruz came in.
Right.
When Victor Cruz came in, and one of the reasons they said he came in was when he was with the Giants, he had a performance-based bonus. And when he was getting close to that, they stopped using him. They stopped playing him. So they didn't have to pay that money. And I guess that gave him the out on his contract, that he could opt out.
There's a guy I forgot all about. You think Victor Cruz would have maybe? I think he probably would have done as good a job as anybody else.
He probably would have. It would have given him something that resembled a threat.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that's going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting watching the off season, is the fact that there, with the fact that we had a bunch of no names and who is he on the roster, mm-hmm. that they're going to be in a good position salary cap wise. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do during free agency.
Okay.
It's going to be very interesting to see what the draft looks like.
Well, I mean,
What's their priorities going to be for the draft?
I was just going to ask.
What
this.
do you think the priorities are going to be for the draft?
Oh, that was my question.
Well, tough. Now you got to answer.
You know what probably the most popular thing would be the obvious need for wide receiver. Yeah. But depending on what's in the draft, and I don't know what's in the draft.
I don't know either.
If you could have a big stud offensive lineman that you could plug in somewhere along the O-line, that might be the first option that I would
You
look
might
at.
need to look for a Kyle Long replacement because who knows about him.
Yeah, he's. You know what? Here's the other thing, and I don't want to wish bad on the Bears. I want to see him do well. But one of the things that looked like it could be their greatest strength this year, going into next season, is going to be in the best way you could describe it is going to be in flux, because you have Kyle Long's iffy. I don't think they're going to re-sign Sitton, and I think that's a good move, even though when he was healthy he played well.
Yeah.
But he's not healthy enough.
Yeah.
Massey's probably going to be gone.
I think Massey's gone. Yeah.
So now you have this Whitehair. I don't know if Grasu is going to done enough to stay around. You got Leno, who they've already invested in.
You're going to have at least four lines.
Yeah, you need some offensive linemen.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing I would hate to see, if Kyle Long, this is easy for me to say, obviously, if he's done, then you know what? Don't try to say up until the day before the first game that he's still in, and then he's not. Let's make some decision on this somewhere further along in training camp than the day before the first game.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's basically what happened this year.
Yeah.
He was like, well,
I think I'm good. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Let me give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes out there and is a wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So that's what I would be looking at. I know that last night everybody was saying, Calvin Ridley. I didn't really see enough of him to really get a good flavor for what he's all about. But he's one of the guys they're saying is going to be one of the top receivers in the class, the Alabama wide receiver. But I don't know, wide receiver-wise, I don't even know who's out there.
Honestly, I haven't even looked.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked, and I'm sure within the next, now that college football season is over, I'm sure within the next day or two we're going to start seeing, mock drafts.
Well,
Actually, we'll wait until the end of the playoffs when everybody's order is in place.
I would think that wide receiver might be one of the more trickier positions to evaluate as an organization. I mean, a wide receiver, a guy coming out of college into the pros, because even though the game in college is played with a lot of passing, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's still a lot different as well.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Watching, and I was thinking about that last night watching the game. Everybody's, and I think the thing that we're going to start seeing more, and they were talking about this with Nagy, especially the way he got more out of Alex Smith in Kansas City after Smith's been around for quite a number of years.
He has been around for a number of years.
He's been around for a while. I think you're going to see a lot of run-pass options. You may start to see that a whole lot more.
That's what they're talking about.
In the NFL. And now I'm sure all the defensive guys are all sitting there looking at video trying to figure out how to counter this. But the fact that you see that in college, maybe that's the difference.
I think you're right. I mean,
maybe that's the difference I was looking at, because essentially you go up there and you may have a choice of 3 plays.
Yeah.
When you see that.
Yeah.
You may have those 3 choices.
Well, last night, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the second Alabama quarterback that came in, even though he did drop back, but then again, a lot of the times when he threw, he was on the rollout as well. So and you know what? I'm not remembering if that was a planned thing or if he just had to scramble out of the pocket and throw.
Good question.
But no, I think you're right. But I don't know, Jim. I'm skeptical about how long something like that is going to last because the first rash of quarterback injuries that are caused by those plays is going to make everybody change their mind.
Yeah. Wait until the first quarterback blows out a knee.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody will start to think twice about that. I mean, we had the stretch where everybody had to have a mobile quarterback. Everybody was looking for a RG3 and a Michael Vick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
And Kaepernick, when he first got his opportunity, was very mobile.
Yeah, for sure.
And
he was.
Everybody, and then the defenses kind of caught up to that.
That's their business, and that's what. And as you say, it's a copycat league. If everybody starts doing it, the defensive side of the ball is going to find a way to stop it.
Yeah, I got to find. I got a book sitting alongside my chair at home. I got to find a quote in there about everything being copycat. And it was very fitting. If I think of that, I'll try to do it, and we'll talk about it. I'll bring it in the next time, if I actually remember it.
You don't?
It's actually a book about baseball. Baseball and the Hall of Fame and analytics and that type of stuff. And it was a very interesting quote and very profound. Again, talking about the fact that everybody copies everything.
They do.
Everybody copies everything. I mean, we go to baseball, everybody's got their chart. Well, we got a situation, we got to do this. Yeah,
I was talking about this with Jim Matthews the other day. I said it's just aggravating when you see, the Warriors are probably the prime team that everybody looks at in basketball right now. Well, they shoot the ball. They shoot the three a lot. That doesn't mean. I mean, you're the worst team in the league, whoever that is. How are you going to do what they do? You better do what you could do, not what they do.
Do what you can do the best.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do what you can do the best. And we don't have we've only got about 9 minutes, but you brought up basketball and that.
Yes.
I mean, the Bulls. They're actually, even if they lose, they're entertaining to watch.
They are. They had a bad one the other night in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But actually, if I was a betting man, I don't know what the deal was on that game, but I probably could have won some money on that game because my feeling was when they played Indiana a week or so ago, I think the Bulls thrashed them pretty good. And even though we're all very professional, in sports, I'm pretty sure those guys remember that. And I'm thinking, okay, look out, Bulls, because Indiana's coming for you, and they sure did come. But you're right, the Bulls are entertaining, and I don't know which.
Lost by 9 last night to Houston.
Oh, they played. Okay, that's not.
They played Houston, lost by 9.
Okay.
Just looking at the stats. We just don't get a good signal down. Oh, there it is. Okay. I also heard today Zach LaVine's going to make his debut.
That'll be interesting
sometime this week.
I think the natural thing would be for the Bulls to take a step back for a few games at least because you have to fit. I know Levine has been practicing with him probably, but the game and how many minutes and everything is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be seamless, but the chances of that are probably not great.
Yeah. Dunn with 19, Valentine with 19, Markkanen with 16, Holiday with 11. Robin Lopez only played 14 minutes, had 2 points. Portis came off the bench and had 22.
Wow.
Nwaba had 10. I think they're going to sign him to a contract for the rest of the year.
That's what they were saying.
Felicio, 4. Grant, 2. Zipser, 2.
What about Mirotic?
Mirotic did not play last night.
Why did he not play?
What did I hear? Everybody seems to be... Was it back problems?
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. Was it back problems? I can't. I heard that he was not going to start last night, but I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember the full reason for it.
I think it was Steve Greenberg in the Sun-Times a week or so ago had a really good column, and he sort of twitted his colleague Joe Cowley in the column. He didn't really call him by name, but Cowley has been writing, when are they going to trade Mirotic at the trade deadline, so the rebuild goes on, and it was either Greenberg or it could have been, maybe it was Tellender though. But he said that he made a great point. He said, "Well, wait a minute. If this thing is, say, working to a certain degree, why are you going to trade a guy and then try to lose more for a bunch of guys who there's no guarantee any of these guys is really going to help your franchise?" And I
Right.
agree with that.
I agree.
I mean, you could see what you have. If you like what you have, whatever draft order you draft in, grab that guy there. But don't be trying to get one of those lottery picks just to lose a bunch of games. That's helping nobody.
I mean, you look at them right now. They're 14-27. They're last in the Central, about where everybody expected them to be. Not the worst team. Brooklyn is Brooklyn is better than them right now. Atlanta's the worst team in the NBA.
Okay.
The Lakers and Memphis are next. So we got 1, 2, 3. They probably, if everything ended today, they'd be the fourth worst team. So I don't know how many cards that gets them in the, or how many ping pong balls that gets them in the.
I don't know how they work
in the
it
draft. I think it's based on your record, and you get X number of ping pong balls, and
Yeah,
And-
that makes sense.
that's how it winds up going. But yeah, somebody was saying, "Geez, the Bulls can't even lose right." Who are they going to get? Who are they going to get rid of? I'm thinking if it come draft time, probably Lopez.
I mean, he would be a likely
He
guy.
would be a likely candidate.
What my question then would be: are we going to trade just to trade, like it seemed likely we did last year at the trading deadline? Or if you could get really something that's going to help for Robin Lopez, I'd say trade him. Otherwise, I think he's a great guy for the team.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah,
And I think Mirotic is somebody that you would want to keep.
if he's going to play the way he's been playing.
If he's going to play the way he's been playing, Mirotic is a good piece of the puzzle.
I'll tell you, both Mirotic and Portis showed me a lot. Maybe Mirotic a little bit more than Portis because he was the more aggrieved party. But when he finally it sank in and said, I got to do this. I can't just not play. And not only does he play, but he and Portis seem to be on the floor quite a bit together, and they've been able to function together pretty well. I got to give Hoiberg and the players and the front office actually some praise for that.
I think these guys that Hoiberg have bought into him.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about this.
And
Jim.
he's getting an opportunity. Hoiberg's getting an opportunity to run the offense that he couldn't last year because he had Dwayne Wade fighting him.
Right.
He had Jimmy Butler fighting him.
Right. Well, think of it this, Jim. People ask, they'll say, why is Mirotic seem to be playing so much better? And I say, well, just think about this. Mirotic was a star in the Spanish league, okay? So he came over. He was used to being the guy. He comes over to a veteran team. You had Butler and you had Noah, and I think Rose was still here when he came, and he had Gibson and all those guys. So he's definitely not high on the pecking order. Those guys move on. Jimmy Butler's still left. They bring in Dwayne Wade, Rondo to a certain degree.
I forgot Rondo.
So now again, what is he going to say? I mean, he's not the main guy. Now all of those guys are gone. Without saying anything negative about any of those guys, this clears the way for Mirotic to step up and be, if not the guy, then, he can be Mirotic, which is not a bad, at this point in time, doesn't look like it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is now it's almost like this is his team. Before it was not his team. He's a guy who was used to teams being his team in the past and had to take a back seat. So you didn't really see maybe the best rendition of Mirotic.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
hey, one more thing, Jim. Who the heck are the Cubs going to sign as their last starter?
I don't know. You know what? It's Cubs convention weekend.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's coming up this weekend, so
Okay.
I wonder if there will be some sort of announcements coming out this weekend.
I hope. I want to see. I want to see who that person's going to be.
I want to see, and I think I think Jake is surprised that he's not getting any offers.
This is really, it's actually, that's surprising me because we're at coffee one day, and the gentleman I mentioned to you before the broadcast, Joe DiGiovanni, is a huge baseball and Cubs fan. And I said to him one day, I said, I was starting to take Jake for granted, but last year in the playoffs, when he pitched against the Nationals and pitched against the Dodgers, and I saw him out there, I realized, man, it's really good to have Jake out there because I'm not going to say he's going to be great every time, but he's going to give you everything he's got.
He's going to give you everything
time.
he's got. That's right.
And Joe said, you're right. He's
I can't see. I think the biggest problem with the fact that he's had periods of inconsistency the last couple of years.
He has.
And he's, 32 years old.
Right.
The fact that he's looking for 6 years.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the big issue.
Although I heard it put pretty well. Let's say, okay, 6 years. Let's say it would take 4 years or something like that. Okay, it's not unusual for a major league pitcher to be effective, even with 6 years. I mean, you're stretching it a little bit.
You're stretching it.
But you know what? It's not.
I don't particularly think Lackey was very good at 38 years old, 39 years old.
Well, he was not what he wasn't.
not.
He wasn't what you would what the type of money that Jake's going to be getting.
Right.
Yeah, he wouldn't be getting that
he
at
wouldn't,
38.
Yeah.
I think
just
if Jake
looking
said,
age-wise.
I'll take 4, but I'm actually because of the lack of, I guess it's the lack of interest. I'm hoping the Cubs are still in the ball game.
I hope so too. Well, I think we'll have a lot to talk about in the next couple, and then when we get together in another couple of weeks here, we'll have playoffs will be set, and I think the playoffs will be done then, and we'll be talking Super Bowl.
Yeah,
We'll be getting closer to spring training. Always say that the first sign of spring is seeing those magic words: pitchers and catchers report.
I think I saw you posted that somewhere.
I know. That's, to me, that's the first sign
Or
of
somebody
spring.
posted it.
I did. I did. I was profound that day.
Yeah.
So that's.
I was going to say, Jim, we're not even into the football playoffs yet.
I know, and it was a cold day, and I always look for some sign of spring because the weather was bothering me that day. So, all right, John, I think we'll leave now. I'm sure
We're done.
Play the music, John. We'll get out of here. Thanks for putting up with our nonsense. Thanks to John for all that he does for us, the doctor of the dials. And we will get together in another couple of weeks and have a little bit more nonsense to talk about. Until then, we are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, January the 10th, the year 2018, on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norge and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norge and the executive producer of the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, January the 9th, the year 2018. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.